I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. I'm just a regular guy named Mark, living an ordinary life with my wife, Jenna. We had been married for 5 years, and at first, things were great. We had our share of ups and downs, like any couple, but nothing that felt insurmountable. Our friends always said we were that couple, the kind that seemed to really get along. I guess I was naive to think that meant we were immune to all the crap that comes with marriage. It started slowly, with little signs that something was off. Jenna began spending more time at the gym, which wasn't unusual since she was always health conscious. But after a while, her late-night workouts became suspicious. I'd ask her about it and she'd brush it off, saying she was just working on her fitness goals. Then there were the long phone calls that she always took in another room. When I'd press her, she'd smile and say it was just her friend Lily, catching up about some drama in her life. I wanted to trust her, but a gnawing feeling in my gut told me to pay attention. One night, I got home from work early, excited to surprise Jenna with dinner. I walked into our home to find it dark and quiet. After calling her name a couple of times with no response, I decided to check her phone. I know, some might say that's a violation of trust, but when something feels off, you want answers. And what I found was chilling. The messages were flirtatious, filled with emojis and inside jokes that I didn't understand. My heart raced as I read through them, with a specific name popping out, Jake, a guy I didn't even know she was close with. My mind spun. I had to confront her. When Jenna finally came home, I was already waiting, arms crossed, holding her phone. The shock on her face was unmistakable when I showed her the messages. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, my voice a mix of anger and hurt. Jenna's initial reaction was denial, her eyes wide and feigning innocence. "Mark, you don't understand. It's nothing. Those are just jokes," she insisted, but her voice trembled. I watched as her facade started to crack, her usual bitchy attitude morphing into something more desperate. "Nothing, it looks like." "More than nothing to me," I shot back. "Who is this Jake? What's really going on?" She shifted uncomfortably, and for a moment I thought she might come clean, but instead she launched into her defense mode. "I mean, yes, we've been texting, but it's just harmless flirting. You're being paranoid." I was furious. Paranoid. I wasn't paranoid, I was betrayed. The emotional storm inside me was overwhelming. I felt like I was losing my grip, slipping into a rage that scared me. I never wanted to be the angry husband, the stereotypical man who screams at his wife over infidelity. But suddenly there I was, confronting the woman I thought I knew. The days that followed were a blur of anger, disbelief, and sorrow. I felt like I was on a roller coaster, but every high was followed by a gut-wrenching drop. Jenna tried to play it off, acting like it was just a silly mistake, but inside I could feel the walls closing in. I had always prided myself on being a good husband, on being supportive and loving. And yet, here I was, facing the harsh reality that my wife was lying to me, too. My face. As I grappled with the betrayal, I felt a mix of emotions swirling within me. Anger was easy to identify, but then there was deep sadness, a feeling of being utterly lost in a relationship I thought was solid. I didn't want to believe that the woman who had once said, "I do," to me could betray our vows so casually. I had invested so much into our life together, and it felt like I was watching it all unravel before my eyes. The confrontation opened a wound that I knew would take time to heal, but what I didn't expect was the sense of betrayal to push me into a dark corner where thoughts of revenge started to creep in. The idea of being the wronged husband, taking back control over my own life, began to stir within me. I started plotting in secret, thinking about how I could make her feel the pain she inflicted upon me. I didn't know what the outcome would be, but I knew one thing for sure. I was no longer the passive husband willing to accept lies and deceit. I was ready to take action. The days dragged on, one a reminder of Jenna's betrayal. I felt like I was suffocating in my own home. Every conversation turned into a battle, every silence a reminder of what once was. Jenna tried to play the victim, constantly telling me I was making a mountain out of a molehill. "It was just fun, Mark," she'd say, rolling her eyes when I brought it up. "Why can't you just let it go?" But how could I let it go when it was burning in my mind like a brand? I started to put the pieces together, replaying every moment in my head. The night I discovered the texts, her late gym sessions, the phone calls in another room, it all began to make sense. I felt like an investigator in a crime drama, piecing together clues of infidelity. I learned of Jake's existence through some digging on social media. He was a coworker of hers, someone she had mentioned in passing, but I never thought much of him. He was just another guy in her life, and now I was beginning to see him as my rival. As I scrolled through their messages once more, I noticed a pattern. They had been meeting up. My heart sank deeper into resentment. I had to know how far this went. The desire for revenge began to simmer inside me. It wasn't just about hurting Jenna anymore. It became about reclaiming my dignity. I had to show her that her actions had consequences. One afternoon, I decided to confront her with more evidence. I had managed to get a hold of her Instagram messages, thanks to her careless handling of her phone. I found a thread where she and Jake had discussed meeting up for drinks, drinks that were not just friendly catch-ups as she had claimed. I printed out the messages and laid them out on the dining table like a grotesque exhibit for her to see. When Jenna came home, her face fell as she took in the sight of the printed texts. "What is this, Mark?" she asked, feigning ignorance, though I could see the color draining from her face. "It's nothing, really, but I wasn't having it." I laid it all out for her, exposing her lies like peeling layers off an onion. I could see the desperate look in her eyes as she tried to find a way out. "Those messages look pretty damn clear to me, Jenna. You've been lying to me and sneaking around behind my back," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. I was fueled not just by anger but by the need to make her understand the gravity of what she had done. She started crying, saying it was a mistake, that she didn't mean to hurt me. "I love you. It was just a phase," she cried, but I couldn't care less about her excuses. Each sob was laced with self-pity, a performance that I had seen far too often. I felt like the fool for believing her pleas, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. "I don't want to hear it," I said, cutting through her facade. "You've made your choice, Jenna. You had fun with him while I was here, thinking we were happy." The reality of it hit me like a brick wall. I was losing the woman I once adored, the one I had shared dreams and plans with, and it was all because of her selfishness. As the confrontation continued, I felt like I was finally breaking free from the prison of doubt and sadness. I was angry, yes, but I was also empowered by the clarity of the situation. I couldn't change what Jenna had done, but I could decide how I would respond. The thoughts of revenge morphed into a plan, one that would not only hurt her but also help me regain a sense of control over my life. I started to prepare for what I would do next. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I began to document everything: her lies, her texts, her excuses. I set up a secret email account to communicate with Jake, pretending to be an interested party looking to confront him about Jenna. I wanted to draw him out to see if he would admit to what he had done. I wanted to make him feel the same sense of betrayal that I felt. With each passing moment, my resolve grew stronger. I was no longer the passive victim of a cheating spouse. I was a man on a mission. I couldn't wait to confront Jake, to lay it all out in front of him. I knew it wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity and showing Jenna that I wasn't someone to be taken lightly. As I prepared for the confrontation, I realized something important. I was more than just a husband betrayed by his wife. I was a man who deserved respect, and I was ready to fight for it. The emotional roller coaster had brought me to this point, and I wasn't going to back down. I was ready to face the storm head-on, and I wouldn't stop until I had my answers. The day of the confrontation with Jake arrived, and I felt a mixture of anxiety and determination. I had arranged to meet him at a coffee shop near his workplace, a place I knew Jenna frequented. My heart raced as I entered the cafe, scanning the room for a familiar face. I spotted him, tall, with a confident swagger that made my blood boil. He was sitting alone at a table, scrolling through his phone, completely unaware of what was about to unfold. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of why I was doing this. I was not just there for revenge. I was there to reclaim my life and confront the man who had crossed a line I never thought would be crossed. As I approached, I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, almost drowning out the sound of chatter around me. "Jake," I said, forcing a calmness I didn't feel. He looked up, startled, and then recognition washed over his face. "Mark, right. Yeah, we need to talk," I said, taking a seat across from him. I could see the moment he realized this was not a friendly chat. His expression shifted from casual amusement to concern as I leaned in, deliberately lowering my voice to keep our conversation private. "I know about you and Jenna," I said, watching his reaction closely. His eyes widened and I could see the gears turning in his mind as he tried to formulate a response. "What do you mean?" he stammered, trying to play innocent, but I was having none of it. I pulled out my phone and showed him the messages I had printed. "These don't look like innocent texts to me. You and my wife have been meeting up behind my back." Jake's face soured, and for a split second I thought he might actually take responsibility. But instead he leaned back, a smirk creeping onto his face. "Look, man, it's not what you think. Jenna and I—" "Save it," I interrupted, feeling a surge of anger. "You think I care about your excuses. You knew she was married and yet you decided to pursue her anyway. That makes you just as guilty." He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, trying to regain some semblance of control. "Listen, Mark, Jenna said things weren't going well with you guys. She said you were distant and that she needed someone who could. Who could what? Be a better husband. Is that what you think?" I shot back, unable to contain my fury. "She's the one who signed up for this marriage, not you. You're just a coward hiding behind her lies." Jake opened his mouth to argue, but I could see the cracks forming in his confidence. I pressed on harder. "Do you really think this is going to end well for you? You're messing with someone else's marriage, and trust me, I'm not just going to roll over and let this slide. You're going to regret this." His bravado seemed to fade as the reality of the situation sank in. "Look, I didn't mean for it to go this far. It was just supposed to be fun," he said, and I couldn't help but feel a wave of disgust wash over me. Fun. He had no idea what his actions had cost me. It was more than just a stupid fling. It was my life, my trust, and my marriage he was toying with. Fun. You think it's fun to break a commitment. You think it's fun to destroy someone's life. I leaned in closer, my voice low but intense. "You think Jenna will be there for you when this all blows up in your face, because I promise you she won't be." I could see the realization dawning on him, the fear creeping into his eyes. I wasn't just a disgruntled husband. I was a man willing to fight for what was rightfully mine. I stood up, feeling the weight of my resolve settling in. "You need to stay away from her," I said, my voice steady. "If you don't, I will make sure everyone knows what you did. You think I won't? Don't test me." As I turned to leave, I felt a mix of triumph and bitterness. I had confronted Jake, but I also felt like I was standing at a crossroads. I had accomplished my mission, but it didn't change the fact that Jenna had betrayed me. As I walked back to my car, the gravity of my situation settled in. Now, I had to face Jenna again, and there was no way she could spin this to her advantage. She had to know that I was not playing games anymore. The confrontation with Jake had ignited something in me that I didn't want to lose. I was ready to take the next step, whatever that meant for our marriage. When I got home, I found Jenna in the living room, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, a casual smile on her face that instantly turned to confusion when she saw the look on mine. "Mark, what's wrong?" I took a moment to compose myself, feeling the tension rise in the air. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady but firm. She could sense something was off. The lightness in her demeanor vanished instantly. "About what?" she asked, feigning innocence, but I saw through her act. I could feel the anger bubbling beneath the surface, but I was ready to lay all my cards on the table. "I just spoke to Jake," I said, watching as her face blanched. "And I know everything." The air between us thickened with unspoken words, and I knew this confrontation would be the breaking point of our marriage. It was time for the truth, no matter how painful it would be for both of us. Jenna's expression shifted from confusion to a mix of fear and annoyance, and I could see the wheels turning in her head as she tried to formulate a response. "Mark, what are you talking about?" she asked, her voice a little too high-pitched, giving away her nerves. "You're being ridiculous." I took a deep breath, feeling a surge of adrenaline as I prepared to lay everything bare. "I just had a conversation with Jake. I know you've been cheating on me with him." Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought she might actually admit it. But then the denial came crashing down like a tidal wave. "Cheating. Mark, please, this is absurd. You're just being paranoid," she said, her voice rising, attempting to deflect. "Jake is just a friend, and you have no idea what you're talking about." Her words were laced with the same bitterness I had come to expect, but now it only fueled my resolve. "Friend," I scoffed, shaking my head in disbelief. "I have the text, Jenna. I saw everything. You're lying to my face. You had no problem sharing intimate conversations with him while pretending everything was fine at home." I held up the printed messages as evidence, almost shoving them in her face. She blinked a few times, looking between the paper and my eyes, but still she fought to maintain her ground. "Those messages can be taken out of context. We were just being playful. It didn't mean anything." There it was again, her attempt to downplay the situation, to frame herself as the victim in this twisted narrative. "Playful," I echoed, incredulous. "You don't get to minimize this. You've been meeting him, and you think that's just harmless fun. You've broken our trust, Jenna." The confrontation was boiling over, and I could feel my emotions swirling wildly. Anger, hurt, disbelief. I wanted to scream, to let her know how shattered I felt inside, but I forced myself to stay calm. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. "Mark, listen, you're blowing this out of proportion. This is not how it seems," she pleaded, her voice trembling slightly, and for a moment I could see a flicker of fear in her eyes. But I was past the point of caring about her fears. I needed her to face the truth. "And what about the times you said you were working late? Or the gym sessions that turned into dinner dates? Was that all just fun too?" I pressed, watching the color drain from her face. Each accusation was a knife, piercing through the web of lies she had spun around us. "I didn't mean to lie," she cried, her voice cracking. "Things had been so hard between us. I just wanted someone to talk to." That struck a nerve. "Someone to talk to? You chose to talk to Jake instead of coming to your husband." I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me again. "You chose to betray me instead. Working through our problems. You chose to lie, Jenna." She flinched at my words, her tough exterior beginning to shatter. "Okay, I messed up, but we were having problems, serious problems. You never listened to me or cared about my feelings anymore. You were so absorbed in your work I felt alone. Is that your justification for cheating, for going behind my back?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You could have talked to me. You could have tried to fix it. But instead, you chose to make it worse." Her tears began to flow freely now, and while part of me felt a pang of sympathy, the other part was too enraged to care. "You think I wanted any of this? I didn't want to hurt you. I just felt so lost." "Lost? Then find your way back. Don't destroy our marriage," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel my emotions spiraling, and I realized that I needed to regain control over the situation. "What were you thinking? That I wouldn't find out? That it would all just go away?" There was a moment of silence filled with tension, and for a brief second I thought she might finally concede. But then, in an act of desperation, she lashed out. "You're not innocent here, Mark. You've been so distant. You think I'm the only one who had a part to play in this. You shut me out." That accusation hit me like a brick wall, and I felt the air thicken around us. "This isn't about me right now. I'm not the one who chose to cheat," I countered. "You made a choice, Jenna, and now we have to deal with the consequences of your actions." As the confrontation dragged on, I could feel the weight of our relationship pressing down on me. I had expected anger, confrontation, and maybe even regret, but this was different. This was raw, painful, and exhausting. I could feel the tears pooling in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. "Mark, please," she said, her voice softer now. "I thought we could fix this. I thought you could understand how I felt." But I could see the thin veneer of remorse fading away as she realized the implications of her actions. "Fix this? You think this can be fixed?" I asked incredulously. "You think I can just pretend that nothing happened? I won't be able to look at you the same way again." In that moment, I realized what I needed to do. I couldn't stay in this toxic cycle any longer. "Jenna, I can't do this. I can't be with someone who doesn't respect our marriage. I need time to think about what I want moving forward." Her face fell, and I could see the realization of what that meant settle in. I was done. I was done with the lies, the deceit, and the games. This was my turning point. I was reclaiming my life and I wouldn't let her manipulations control me any longer. "Mark, don't say that," she begged, her voice cracking. "I can change, we can fix this together." But I was resolute. "No, Jenna, it's too late for that. You've made your choices and now I have to make mine. I can't stay in a relationship built on lies." I turned away, feeling my heart break but also feeling a strange sense of liberation. I had taken a stand and it felt powerful. As I walked away, I knew this wasn't the end of the battle, but it was the start of a new chapter, one where I could finally decide what I wanted for my life. I was done with her games, and I was ready to face whatever came next, no matter how painful it might be. The days following the confrontation were some of the hardest I've ever faced. Jenna was on a relentless campaign to win me back, showering me with apologies, tears, and promises. But it felt hollow to me, like the echoes of a broken record. I had spent years investing in our relationship, and now I was left grappling with the wreckage of what had once been. I moved into the spare bedroom, needing physical distance to match the emotional chasm that had opened up between us. The silence of the house felt deafening. Every little thing reminded me of her: the way she laughed, the scent of her shampoo lingering in the air, or the small things that used to make me smile. Now they only served to deepen the wound. I took a few days to clear my head, to really think about what I wanted. Friends urged me to move on, to kick her out and take control of my life again. Yet, a part of me still mourned the relationship we once had. I missed the connection, the intimacy, but the betrayal felt like a knife twisted in my gut. I started going out more, spending time with friends who had expressed concern over my situation. They were supportive, offering to take me out for drinks or to watch sports. I even started exercising again to clear my mind, running each morning as the sun rose, feeling the sweat and exhaustion wash away the negativity. It was liberating to reclaim these parts of my life, to remind myself that I was more than just a husband betrayed. But then came the decision I had been avoiding. I couldn't keep living in this limbo. It was time to confront the reality of our situation. I needed to talk to Jenna one last time, to lay everything on the table and decide once and for all if there was a way forward, or if it was time to part ways for good. When I called her into the living room, I could see the hope flickering in her eyes. She thought I might be ready to forgive her, to sweep everything under the rug, but that was far from the truth. I felt steely resolve as I prepared to speak. "Jenna, I've been doing a lot of thinking," I began, my voice steady. "I can't ignore what's happened between us. I've tried to find a way to forgive you, to somehow move past this, but every time you smile at me or try to connect, I'm reminded of your betrayal." Her expression shifted from hopeful to pained, and I could see her struggling to find the right words. "Mark, I know I've messed up. I can't change what I did, but I promise I'll do anything to make it right. I love you and I don't want to lose you." The sincerity in her voice made my heart ache, but I knew I had to stand firm. "Love isn't enough when trust is broken, Jenna. You've shattered the foundation of our marriage. I can't just pretend like it didn't happen. The pain is too deep." "Then what do you want?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "Do you want to just throw it all away? Do you want to end our marriage like this?" "I don't want to end it, but I can't stay married to someone who betrays me," I said, each word heavy with meaning. "I need space. I need time to figure out what I want for my future. And honestly, I think it's best if we separate for now." The words hung in the air like a lead balloon. Her face fell and I could see the devastation wash over her. "Mark, please don't do this. I can change. Go to therapy, I'll do whatever it takes." "I appreciate that, but it's not just about you anymore. This is about me too," I replied, feeling the weight of my decision. "I need to rediscover who I am outside of our relationship. I can't do that while I'm still living here, pretending things are okay." Jenna started to cry, her composure slipping away. "I can't lose you. I thought we could work through this together. I thought you loved me." "I do love you, but love isn't enough to fix this," I said softly, feeling my own heart breaking. "I need to heal. I need to know that I can trust again before I even consider attempting to rebuild." We sat in silence for a while, the tension palpable. I knew this was going to be one of the hardest things I would ever have to do. But I also knew it was necessary for both of us to grow, to confront the realities of our relationship. In the following days, we began to sort out the logistics of our separation. It was painful and drawn out, but I felt a strange sense of relief with each decision we made. I packed my things, deciding to stay with a close friend for a while. The finality of it all hit hard, but I kept reminding myself that I was choosing to take control of my life. I saw Jenna one last time before I left. She was sitting on the couch with tear-stained cheeks, clutching a pillow like it was a lifeline. "I'm sorry, Mark," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I know," I replied, my heart heavy with regret. "But I can't keep going like this. I need to move on." As I walked out the door, I felt a mix of sadness and empowerment. I was leaving behind a life filled with love and laughter, but also betrayal and pain. It was time to face an uncertain future, one that would hopefully lead to healing. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but I was ready to confront them. I had taken the hardest step, and now it was time to rediscover what it meant to be me. I was choosing to embrace the unknown, the chance for a fresh start. As I closed the door behind me, I looked ahead, ready to step into a new chapter of my life. The first few weeks of separation felt surreal. I stayed with my friend Mike, who had been supportive throughout this entire ordeal. He provided a much-needed distraction, inviting me out to watch games, grab drinks, and just hang out. Honestly, I was grateful for his company. It helped me immerse myself in a new routine, one that didn't involve constant reminders of my betrayal. Every time I thought about Jenna, I felt a pang of sadness mixed with relief. I missed her, yes, but I also felt freed from the weight of the lies that had smothered our relationship. I started to focus on myself, rediscovering passions I had neglected. I went hiking, spent time reading, and even took up cooking again. I felt the fog of betrayal slowly lifting, allowing me to breathe more easily with each passing day. But the process of healing wasn't linear. There were moments when I found myself staring at the wall, lost in thoughts about our past. I often replayed the good memories, our laughter, our adventures, but then the sting of betrayal would crash over me like a wave, reminding me why I couldn't go back. I had to accept that the woman I loved was still there, but she was also a stranger who had chosen to hurt me deeply. After about a month, I decided to seek therapy. It was a big step, but I knew I needed guidance to process everything. My therapist helped me navigate through the pain, teaching me to focus on setting healthy boundaries and rebuilding my self-esteem. With time, I learned to let go of the anger I held towards Jenna. It wasn't easy, but I realized that holding onto that anger was only hurting me further. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself growing stronger and more resilient. I had learned to prioritize my own happiness, to do things that made me feel alive again. I started to hang out with friends more often and even began dating casually, without any pressure or expectations. I was getting comfortable with the idea of redefining my life outside of my marriage. Then came the day I received a text from Jenna. It had been a while since we last spoke, and I wasn't sure what to expect. "Can we talk?" It read simply. I felt my heart race, a mix of anxiety and curiosity flooding through me. I hadn't blocked her number, mostly because I didn't want to be that person. I decided to respond, agreeing to meet at a coffee shop. As I approached the cafe, I felt a wave of apprehension wash over me. What would she say? Did she want to apologize again? I had moved forward. I wasn't sure if I wanted to revisit the past. When I saw her sitting at a table, my heart sank. She looked different, more vulnerable and less combative than the last time I'd seen her. Her eyes were red and puffy, and I could see the weight of regret etched on her face. We exchanged small talk, the tension palpable in the air. After a few awkward minutes, she took a deep breath, clearly gathering her thoughts. "Mark, I've been doing a lot of reflecting," she began, her voice shaky. "I realize now how much I hurt you, and I can't express how deeply sorry I am for everything. I've been going to therapy, and I see now just how bad my choices were. I was selfish, and I took you for granted." I nodded, feeling a rush of emotions. It was hard to hear her take responsibility, but I also knew that apologies without action meant little. "Jenna, I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot, but I can't just forget what happened. It hurt too much." "I understand," she replied, her voice cracking. I don't expect you to forgive me right away, but I want you to know I'm working on myself. I'm hoping that one day, maybe we can find a way back to each other, even just as friends." I considered her words carefully. It was a monumental shift from the woman I had confronted months ago, but friendship, that felt like a distant dream. "I'm glad to hear you're working on yourself, but I'm not ready to jump back into anything. I need to continue focusing on my own journey." She looked down, nodding in understanding. "I get it. I just wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry, and I hope you find happiness, whatever that looks like for you." As we parted ways, I felt a strange mixture of closure and lingering pain. I was proud of myself for standing firm in my decision, but I also left with a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons learned and for the opportunity to grow. A cruel situation had transformed into a journey of self-discovery, and I was learning to embrace my newfound independence. In the months that followed, I continued to focus on my own healing. I made new friends and strengthened existing relationships. I traveled to places I had always wanted to visit. I even started a blog to document my journey, hoping it might help others in similar situations. The pain of betrayal had once threatened to consume me, but I was slowly learning that it could also be a catalyst for personal growth. Eventually, I found myself in a place of acceptance. I realized that I would always carry the scars of what had happened, but they didn't define me. I was a survivor, ready to embrace whatever came next. I had learned to trust myself again and to set boundaries that valued my worth. As I looked back, I realized that while Jenna had broken my heart, I had emerged stronger than I ever thought possible. I was ready for new beginnings, for fresh opportunities, and for the next chapter of my life. And although I didn't know exactly what that would entail, I was excited to find out. Life was waiting for me, and I was finally ready to embrace it wholeheartedly.